Hi everyone! Welcome to this week's video to show you the progress of my Dollhouse makeover. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you're returning after watching previous videos, thank you so much for continuing to watch. I will pop a link to the playlist at the top of this video so that you can watch this makeover from the start if you'd like to. So I am currently turning this 12 scale doll's house into a converted warehouse with a miniature art gallery at the bottom and an apartment at the top. I previously cut a hole in the wall of the doll's house so that I could have a door to the apartment which will be accessed by an exterior staircase. In today's video I'm going to be making this staircase, and before starting the staircase I need to make a pavement area. I need to do this first so that I can work out how wide the staircase needs to be. I won't talk in too much detail about how I'm making the pavement area, just because it's a very similar method to how I made the stonework and the brickwork for the outside of the house. But I'll put a link at the top of this video in case you haven't already watched those videos and if you want to know the method. So when making this pavement area, I didn't choose the best colours of paint when making up the mixture. It's not a huge problem because I can paint the pavement area when it's dry, but if I had chosen the right colours, it would have saved me having to paint the pavement later. Never mind. I wasn't quite sure what colour I wanted the pavement to be. Obviously, it probably should be grey, but I feel like a grey colour will be quite a cool colour, but the rest of the doll's house is quite a warm colour. And I also feel like, because this doll's house will be on display in my own home, I want the colours to match my home decor, and I've got quite warm colours in my house. So I don't really want a very grey pavement. So at the moment it's looking a very sandy colour, but I will probably paint it to make it a slightly different colour. I'm just not fully decided yet what exact colour I'd like it to be. So I used a palette knife to place the mixture down, and then I scored some marks into the mixture to make it look like there were individual slabs of pavement. So onto the staircase. This little staircase came with this doll's house, and I'd removed it. In fact, there were two of them, and I'd removed both of them because I changed the whole internal structure of the doll's house. But I kept them because I knew I wanted to put a staircase on the outside, and I thought that if I used these staircases for reference, it meant that the scale would definitely be right, and the angle of the stairs. So I started by trying to attach that little staircase to the side of the house, but it wouldn't stick to the brick. So I used my ruler and measured to work out exactly what I needed to make a little balcony space at the top of the staircase. So I'm using balsa wood here. This is the very first time I've ever used balsa wood. In all of my other projects, I've used plywood. So throughout my Tudor doll's house makeover, all of the furniture in there was made out of plywood or different scraps of wood that were a lot more difficult to cut. I couldn't believe how easy this balsa wood was to cut. And my craft knife was very blunt, which wasn't helpful, but it was still quite easy to cut. By the way, please don't copy me. As I always say in my videos, I am definitely not an expert. I just do this as a hobby, and this is a diary entry, not a tutorial. I tried to keep my fingers out of the way as I was cutting, but I am very clumsy, so yeah, I'm definitely not someone to copy in terms of technique. So I started by trying to make a little frame, because I want it to look like a metal balcony or a wooden balcony. I've not decided which yet, and I needed to kind of make a cuboid frame for this area. I started by trying to make the complete outside of the rectangle and then pop the middle bit out. But unfortunately, the wood split as I was cutting it, which meant that I ended up with individual pieces of wood. It split when I cut in this direction. Is that a problem that anyone else has found with balsa wood? That if you cut in one direction, it's really easy, but if you cut at a different angle, it sometimes makes the wood split? I'd be interested to know your experiences of it and if there's a way to stop this from happening. I imagine not using a blunt craft knife would probably be quite helpful. But yeah, please do leave any tips or advice in the comments. So as you can see here, the pieces of wood split apart, and this meant that I then had to recut the pieces at the end because they broke into little pieces, and I then glued this frame back together. I used my little right angle tool to make sure that all of these angles were at 90 degrees so that I knew that the balcony would sit in the correct position. Next, I started to add this mesh material, and this mesh is a plastic, which I think the packaging on the product that I bought said that it was a drain pipe cover, although I'm not sure how it would be used as a drain pipe cover. I've used this material previously on my Tudor Dollhouse windows to try and make leaded windows, and I was using it this time to try and make it look like metal mesh on the balcony and on the stairs. You might have noticed that I'd sectioned this little frame into 3 pieces, and the reason for that was that the middle section wasn't going to have any mesh in it because that would be the bit where the staircases came up, where my little miniature characters would walk up there to access the apartment. I have already started to have a think about who might live in this apartment. What do you think it should be? Should it be a little mouse? Maybe a little otter? What sort of character do you think would live in an apartment in a converted warehouse above an art gallery? Please let me know in the comments, because my mum made my characters for my last doll's house, but I might ask her if she can help me to make my own characters for this one. I also need a gallery owner. I don't know whether it should be the person living in the apartment that is also the person that owns the art gallery, or if an artist should live up in the apartment above, or somebody completely different. I don't know. What do you think? To attach this mesh, I'd started to use little card triangles to hold it in place. As it happens, I did actually then replace these triangles with slightly bigger ones that overlapped onto the wood, just to hold the mesh in place a little bit more securely. I'd turned this over to then add the little pieces of card again so that they stuck either side of the mesh and onto the wood as well, because obviously the mesh didn't have many contact points with the wood, so it was hard to stick that in place. Now, as you can see here, I'd already attached the bigger triangles, and that meant that I had to try and get this little piece of card underneath these triangles. So I ended up removing them and then reattaching them afterwards. I'd made this mistake because I hadn't planned this project first. I'd just had a go and thought that if things go wrong, then I'll learn from that. I'd love to know if you plan your projects first. I sometimes do. I do have a little sketchbook where I sometimes plan things out and write down measurements, but on this occasion I hadn't done that. I've actually lost my little sketchbook. I can't find it anywhere, which I don't really understand because there's not many places that it could be. But yeah, I would love to know who plans their miniature projects first and who just goes for it and sees how it turns out. So after fixing this mesh in place, it was time to hold the staircase up with this little area that was going to form the balcony to check the sizes. So the staircase was actually a little bit too wide, so I decided to remove the steps. Please don't copy this, as you can see there are some little splinters of wood there. So I'd removed these steps, but I was still going to use the sides because they were exactly the right size and they were exactly the right angle. So I held the balcony up with the staircase in exactly the right position, and I tried to glue it in place like this. But I couldn't balance the little balcony area and the side of the stairs at the same time and glue them. So I decided to make sure I knew exactly where I was going to glue the staircase, and then I took it back to my cutting mat and glued it in position down there. Once I'd glued it into position, I used the second staircase to just hold it in the correct place whilst it dried. Whilst it was drying, I made another panel for the balcony, so this was going to be the front panel. and I decided to not put the triangular pieces onto this one because I felt like these little pieces of card were going to hold the mesh in place absolutely fine, and I just thought that it looked a little bit nicer and a little bit neater without the triangles. When it comes to painting this, I don't know whether to paint it black, so I'm thinking of using the black paint that I used when I painted my frames in the last video, or whether to paint it the green that I painted above the windows in a previous video. Of course I could paint it both colours and paint the wood with the black paint and maybe paint the pieces of card with green. It is going to be a little tricky to paint underneath the card where the mesh is, so I should have probably painted it before I stuck it all down, but that's something to learn from. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I think that a little bit of green on it would be nice to make it sort of cohesive with the rest of the exterior of the house. But I think it would also look nice if I painted it black, so yeah, please leave your opinions in the comments. I know I've already asked for your opinions a few times throughout this video, but I really value your opinions. It really helps me to decide my next steps. So, whilst I left this to dry, I went and did some of my illustration work. So if you're new to my channel, you may not know that I have a little Etsy shop called The Little Mouse's House, and I basically sell my illustrations in the form of art prints and greetings cards. And I'd made a new design of a piece of cake, and the reason I did this was because it was my birthday this week, so it inspired me. And I've also been working on personalising some of my previous designs. So here's some of the examples. I've turned the Easter card into a card that can be customised. And I've also turned my bee card into one that can be customised with a name. So yeah, I decided to do a little bit of this work whilst everything was drying for my doll's house. Seeing as it was my birthday this week, I've decided to make a little promo code. So it's cake25 if you would like 10% off anything from my Etsy shop. There's no minimum spend and it's valid until the 31st of March. If you do go on my Etsy store and use this code, you might need to put cake in capital letters because I forgot to write it in capital letters here. So cake25 with no spaces. And I've also been working on trying to change listings so that there's free delivery. For some of them there's not free delivery just yet, and I am working on that. But yeah, there's loads of different things in my Etsy shop, so if you're looking for some art for yourself or maybe a gift for somebody else, I've got these mini prints, I've got my greetings cards as I've just spoken about, and I also have A4 prints. So my mini prints come in the 5x7 mount. My A4 prints can be bought with or without the mount, so if you were to buy a mount it would be 14 inches by 11 inches. And I also do customised pet portraits like this one of my own lovely cat. So yeah, if you'd like to have a look, this isn't a paid ad by the way, this is my own little business. So this is how my balcony is looking, and my next steps are to make a little panel at the back of the balcony, and I also need to make some little steps coming down from the door because this balcony is a little bit lower than the position of the door. And of course I need to add the steps to the actual stairs. So I'm really happy with how it's looking so far. I obviously need to add those parts and then paint it, so I need to decide what colours I'm going to paint it, and I need to paint that little pavement area too. It's not dry yet, so I'm not sure what colour it's going to dry because some areas are looking a little lighter as they're drying. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. In next week's video I will show you the finished staircase, hopefully. And if you are not subscribed already, please do hit subscribe and leave a comment, it'd be lovely to hear from you. And yeah, I think there's a little bell button that might mean notify me, so if you want to press that it should give you a notification when I upload my next video, but I normally upload them on a Friday. So I will see you next time, and thanks so much for watching. Bye!